Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all well. We certainly are. It's a fantastic day here in Africa, cooling down a little bit. Winter's coming, so we're looking forward to that. Thanks very much for the questions. As promised, I'm going to be doing a video answer to one of those questions, and this is it. And the question I've selected is, are gorillas susceptible to COVID-19? Can they get it? In a nutshell, the answer is yes. They can get it. We're quite sure. There's no definitive links to say that they have this particular one because it's a new virus. But let's face it, coronavirus, COVID-19 is essentially a respiratory syndrome. It's a type of flu, and your great apes are all very, very closely related to humans. We are a great ape ourselves, in fact. So it basically means that the same types of diseases we get, they're susceptible to. They can be afflicted by the same types of things, and specifically coronaviruses, which are flu-type viruses, respiratory syndrome viruses, where there's a lot of evidence to show that certain primate populations over the last 10 to 20 years have been adversely affected by humans bringing these viruses into their natural habitats. So primate viewing, research, people wandering around in forests is all put those primates at risk. Unfortunately, we've got a problem because most of our great apes are now endangered or highly threatened as populations, and primate viewing tourism has obviously been a way of trying to secure their survival long term. But when it comes to disease transmission, that of course can be severely problematic, and it can actually, because these populations are small and fragmented, it can actually result in their total demise, or the disease could afflict the population to such an extent that whatever survivors are left on makes for a population that's not genetically viable. So they need to protect these populations at all costs, which is why the decision was made very early in this global pandemic to actually stop all tourism to the major primate areas. And that was obviously very effective. People will know that have done in Africa anyway, the primate viewing of gorillas or chimps, they would be very, very strict on checking the health of participants in those treks every day. If you arrive there with coughing and sneezing and a fever, they're not going to let you go and trek. And the rules in the forest also are trying to mitigate those types of problems. So no spitting, no urinating, defecating, washing your mouth out, because all the pathogens that we leave in the forest, that the gorillas and the chimps moving on the same pathways are likely to pick up those pathogens, feeding on leaves, putting their hands in their mouth, and wow, you have an outbreak straight away. So and in also some places like Mahali Mountains in Tanzania, you wear masks when you go out, because the populations have been afflicted by flu-type outbreaks in the past. So definitely they're at risk. The problem is now, how do you mitigate this problem entirely? Because if you take everybody out of the forest, you're going to end up with the poachers moving in. And you're going to come back after COVID-19 having no gorillas or chimps or orangutans to view. So you've got to leave some staff there, essential researchers and guards, and they're just going to need to adhere to strict protocols going forward to ensure that they're properly screened and tested negative, and they maintain distance and so on. So hopefully this will all pass by and we'll have none of the wild populations being affected by it, but certainly a risk, and all similar diseases like this going forward would be a risk to them. Even diseases like Ebola, many of our gorilla populations in West Africa have been decimated by Ebola. And they're susceptible, not necessarily having contracted that from people, but also having picked it up in the forest, because it is an endemic disease. So whatever they can get, we can get, and we can transmit it from one population to the other, back and forth. So it puts us all at risk. Hope that answers the question. If there's any other questions you have, please post them. We look forward to answering them. We've got lots of time to do so. I'm out now to go and look for some wild dogs. Go and enjoy your day further. We'll chat later. Cheers.